Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Hightown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with my boy Osito, because I left him out of last episode because I didn't talk about him and Janelle's circumstances last episode. He goes showing, I love like the music playing, like he's walking, like I'm falling. He's like, I'm feeling myself, I'm feeling so good. That's not Janelle in there. He's like, yeah, I'm like your physical therapist now. Let's get to work. But it turns out it's like Janelle kind of walked away because he was feeling high above everything. He was like, oh man, like he's like, oh, I'm kind of falling for this woman. And then the way Vern's talking, I'm like, are you high right now? Turns out he is. Which once again, it is actually kind of sweet how Osito's like, nah, man, I'm not about to do that again. Like, the fact is that if you, this, either you're in or you're out. And he's like, but man, it just feels so good, you know? Because he's like, because essentially, oh yeah, like Osito was like, you said you weren't about that anymore. And he was like, man, I lied. You know, it's just, you know, once an addict, always an addict. But he already went through this with Junior. And that loss really messed him up. Once again, you wouldn't think so, but it's like, yeah, he loved that. He loved that dude. So it's like, nah, man, I'm not about to lose someone else I'm getting close to and care about. Because he's taking Vern under his wing just like he did Junior, you know? So he's not about to have like this be the end of someone else he's getting close to, or another, another person under his tutelage. But you had the whole thing with him and Janelle, which, you know, Janelle's like, right, like, she knows people that get mixed up with inmates. She's like, I'm not, because like, oh, like, they want a bad boy. She's like, I'm not about that. And he was like, yeah, and I'm not about that either. He's like, I don't need you to be that type of girl. He's like, I am going to get out of here. But, like, you believe in me, Doc, so I need you to keep believing. Say that I'm going to get out. And she's like, you're going to get out of here. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be a free man. And I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do, get some flowers. Then I'm going to come over to your house. And you're going to answer the door, you got your hair done, you're going to wear some tight-ass pants or something. And it's like, and I'm going to say, Janelle, and you're going to let me. And she's like, oh, am I? And it's like, yeah. And she's like, well, I hope that does happen. But until then, because he's like, yeah, because he's going to get her something purple, because he's like, purple's probably I can tell purple's your favorite color. But it's like, nah. Like, but it's like, yeah, until then, it's like, home duty is your physical therapist. He's good, yeah, but not as good as you, Doc. I'm like, yeah, like, legitimately, if you took the context away of a lot of the other stuff, it's like, I feel weird about it. I'm like, there's actually some kind of cute, sweet elements to that. Like, that's the thing, like, there are some redeeming qualities about Osito. He's still a scumbag through and through, but the fact of the matter is, because we know you're manipulating the system, you're a bad guy, you're a killer, you're selling drugs in the prison, but it's like I said, you take away some of that context and you look at the stuff between him and Janelle, it's like, oh, there's actually there's some sweet, cute elements to that. So I personally just think that's so fascinating. Hell, he even got a visit from both Frankie and Alan, because Frankie's rolling up on him like, oh, basically, like, did you kill my cousin? He was like, no, if I was going to kill your cousin, I wouldn't, like, do this roundabout stuff like you would get someone else to do. He's like, I do it myself. I send his body parts to you with a note. I'm like, yo! The way he stands for the Frankie, and then Frankie stands up, and he stands up too, like, because he figured if anyone's going to have the cojones to come after Jorge, it would be him. It's like, you know, it's like, well, you did try to kill me, and he's like, oh, it's nothing, I was nothing personal, Poppy. I'm like, I don't know why. There's some, like, gangsta ass shit about, like, him being like, that was nothing personal, Poppy. Like, because I think it's also supposed to be, like, a little disarming that he's calling us, like, Poppy. Like, I think it's meant to be almost like, oh, like, you're cute to me, kid. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like, I thought you might be the one, but I'm not scared you ain't worried about you. But I think it speaks volumes that he looks at Osito as the one to do that. But he's like, nah, you don't have anyone to blame but yourself, because you were so incompetent and you were fucking up all the time. That's the only reason why I had to try to kill you. So just thought that was fascinating. But it did clear the air enough for Frankie to be like, yeah, he doesn't think Osito did it. At least I don't think he thinks he did it. But Alan comes to him because he had actually gone to Aileen's funeral, but Charmaine wasn't there. That's what I thought was interesting. I was like, well, we know Charmaine's supposed to be picking up some drugs, but then, like, Alan is at the funeral. That's why I was like, oh, how's that going to work? But we found out exactly how that worked. She didn't show up to the funeral just because she didn't want to be there. She set it all up, paid everything. But she just couldn't bring herself to be there. And Alan's trying to talk to their aunt by being like, right, you need to help out Charmaine. What happened to Aileen, it's a terrible tragedy, and I'm sorry we couldn't prevent something like this from happening. But Charmaine's out there. She's still in a position where, like, we can save her. It's not too late, but she's rolling with some bad people. But her aunt is like, that little girl already had to go through so much. Before she even turned 8, she already had 2 funerals to attend to, both of her parents. And so Wayne and me took her in. Wayne taught her the ropes, how to be strong, how to kind of make things work in life. But he also taught them another lesson: never talk to no police. So despite everything, it's like, despite the circumstances they're in, despite the fact is Aileen died because of the business they're in, but it's like, no, like, she's gonna be fine, because it's also, we can't trust the police. It's like, because at the end of the day, you're just gonna do what you're gonna do. You're using Charmaine as a means to get to Frankie, and if Charmaine rats, she's as good as dead anyway, you know? Especially, like, her being mixed up in it. So it's like, I think that's also the thing of, like, don't act like you got such altruistic reasons. Yeah, you're trying to take out Frankie, but you're just going to use my niece as a means to do it. So I'm not going to, like, be party to that. Plus, it's like, the cops are the cops. Like, it's a combination of snitches get stitches, or rather, snitches end up in ditches, but also just like, no, like, you ain't going to put my niece in that position. So Frank, Alan kind of walked away with a bust from that situation. Other than that, we had Jackie and Ray talking about what they're going to do. It's like, right, don't go to Alan about the Daisy thing, because it's just going to be a dream. So you need to actually find some proof. That's the only way you're going to prove it to Alan. While also Ray's kind of making some moves of his own, because Renee woke up, and she's also touching her belly, because it's like, right, because I guess, like, she's showing at least a little bit more, and so it's like, right, it's not going to be long. You won't be able to hide that from Frankie forever. So the question is what she's going to do when the time comes. She's probably hoping to have Frankie out of her life by then, you know, so it won't have to come to that, especially when she saw Frankie, like, getting a 5-year-old to shoot, like, you know, practicing shots. It's like, oh, I need him to be able to protect himself. She's like, why would our 5-year, like, if anytime he has a disagreement with a kid, he, like, pops him or something? It's like, no, it's just Jorge is dead, and I have no idea who's coming after our family. But she's the one that gave him an idea to be like, there are 10 different people I can think of that want you dead. Why don't you go to them and leave my son out of this? So it's like, I'm not trying to give Frankie any leeway, you know. It's like, but even Renee's kind of in that complicated situation, because it's like, anytime that Jorge's day comes up, you see that look on her face getting real nervous. It's like, yeah, because if Frankie finds out you did it, might be the mother of his child, he will kill you. Granted, her saving grace might be her being pregnant. She'd be like, I'm pregnant. Very, like, spoilers, you know, it's over a season ago, so I think I can, very Love and Joe type of situation from you, of like, no, I'm pregnant, don't kill me. It might turn into something like that if Frankie ever finds out. So it's like, right, I'm only going to keep you alive because you're pregnant with my baby, and so she's going to have to hide the truth that it's actually raised. But it's like, the moment the time comes and the baby comes out and it ends up being raised, then Frankie's going to be extra pissed. That's what I'm thinking, but we'll have to wait and see if it ends up even coming to that. But obviously, she goes to Ray, and Renee wants help with that situation. I was so curious if, because Ray's looking after the cat while Jackie's away, because even Ray was like, oh, maybe you should go to a meeting. She's like, no, I don't need a meeting, I need work. Which even Ray's like, I get that. Like, I don't know if but it's like, there's a meeting too. Like, no, I understand what you mean. You need that to keep you sober, keep your mind straight. He's like, I need the same thing too. That's why he so desperately wants his job back. But, I think that's so fascinating that I thought, like, I was wondering, like, if that cat was there and Renee, because I don't know how, like, tight Renee and Daisy were, because I don't know if she would have known that was, like, the cat, like, from Daisy's place. She probably wouldn't have recognized that, but I just thought it was interesting they made sure to make sure that the cat ran upstairs, and maybe that's supposed to be indicative of something, because I know it applies to dogs, but I think it applies to cats too. Like, animals have an instinct about certain things, so the fact is the cat ran upstairs just seemed a little indicative that, like, Renee rolling up. So it could just be like Renee would recognize the cat, but I doubt that, but still a possibility. Or that's just supposed to be indicative of, like, oh, animals just have a tendency to kind of sense certain things. So Renee is going to tell Ray everything, because it's the only way she could get Frankie out of her life. But it's a complicated thing of, like, despite him being the drug dealer, despite him being the murderer he is still the father of your child. I mean, that's why she was like super ride or die even though he was locked up. I mean, granted, Frankie had reach outside of prison even while in prison, so it didn't matter. But also, it's like, she's like, I've been with Frankie since I was 18 years old, so it's like, all I've ever really known for so long is him, and I don't know what my life is like without him. But granted, you put yourself in a situation where you killed his familia, so he's not going to be too happy about it, even though you are his familia too. But it's different when it is actual blood relation. Because the thing is, you might be the mother of his child, Frankie Jr.'s his blood, you are not, so that he loves you and everything, but that love can disappear real quick because Frankie's the sociopath that he is. So once again, sociopath, psychopath. I really need to finally at some point really look at the difference to understand, because they're similar but they're not the same thing. So I can always make sure I'm actually using the appropriate word to describe said person we're talking about. At the same time this is all happening, she ends up running into Donna, and she's like, "Oh, have you seen Daisy?" It's like, "No, I haven't seen her since before Thanksgiving. I haven't seen Jorge either." But then she also says, "Oh, hey, you okay? You look like you staying clean." And she's like, "Yeah, 7 days sober." And it's like, "Yeah," because she was like, "Oh, her taking classes," and Jackie's like, "Oh, Junior would be proud of you." And she's like, "Junior would be proud of you too." And in that moment, she's like, you feel her being like, "Fuck," because it's like, not just feeling, but saying "fuck," because it's like everything's spiraling, because it's like, right, because she feels like, because Junior was her reason to stay sober, and it's like, right, I've got so lost in everything else, I'm forgetting about that. It's like, she was in a process last episode of calling up, Vince from the program, but it's like, she didn't. It's like, there's a lot she needs to deal with. I mean, there's everything with her dad. There's so much deep stuff that she has. Once again, she's not dealing with the root of it. She's just putting a band-aid on it, and those band-aids aren't sticking like they used to. Essentially, it's like she's only finding temporary solutions. I sound like Porky Peter. The point is that until she deals with the root cause, this is going to be continuous over and over again. To be fair, addiction is a forever thing. It doesn't go away. You're forever in adapt. Once if you're an addict, you're an addict for life. So she just has to find the appropriate means of coping. She's finding temporary solutions, and those temporary solutions aren't the best solutions anyway. So, but circling back to it though, she ends up talking to Valentina. I was like, "Are you going to reveal yourself to be a cop?" But it's like, no. If you come out as a cop, then Daisy's daughter's probably going to shut down really quickly, because she's going to be like, no, I'm not about to If I remember correctly, didn't she actually refer to her as Daisy instead of her actual name? Because her actual name is Brittany. I don't think she referred to her, because her Instagram is actually her name Brittany. But I'm like, I don't know if, not unless that's Daisy isn't just a strip club thing, that might actually be her nickname. I'm trying to remember, did Jackie actually refer to her as Daisy in those scenes when she was talking to her daughter? I don't remember now. That's something I would have to go back and look at. But aside from that, it's right, she hadn't heard from her mom since her mom, last time she talked to her mom was last Tuesday, after she was leaving swimming. But then it's mom was supposed to come over for Thanksgiving, but she didn't. It's like, oh, she canceled. It's like, no, she just never showed up. And then it's like, you think my mom's not going to come back for a cat? It's like, no, I'm sure she'll show up. And it's like, that was enough, because it's right, not saying anything to her daughter. Daisy wouldn't leave without the cat, the birth control is one thing. Now her daughter, it's like, no, she wouldn't bounce, because she made it clear to Jackie when they talked before, how important, being with her daughter was to her. It's like, she wasn't going to leave. So that's when she comes to Frank, she goes to Ray and is like, yeah, I think she's dead. And so Ray's actually making moves of his own. Before then, he actually goes to that guy Mickey. I meant to look it up, or at least pay attention, and then that's not Anthony Michael Hall, is it? That actor. I was like, if I don't think it is, but if he looks a lot like Anthony Michael. There's an actor I know that looks a lot like him. That's why I don't know if that's him or not. It looked and sounded like it could be Michael Anthony Hall, but I wasn't sure. That cop he was talking to at that convention. And it's like, cool, Ray's like, I want my job back. Basically, you can get the supplier, and you could get Frankie, and that way, you could stick it to the DEA as well, so I just want my job back. But the guy's like, right, I'm not making any promises. I'm definitely not sticking my neck out for you until we actually get arrested. And Ray's like, I'm good, okay, because he got all he got from Renee, so he's like, nah, I'm goated, I'm fine. Which I even love that line where Renee was like, goodbye, Frankie. You're like, ooh, that goodbye had some stank on it. By that I meant layers. But aside from that, Jackie does bring this all up to Ray, and Ray's like, all right, I have an insight, and it's like, oh, it's Renee. And she's like, really? It's like, how you know she's not screwing you over? It's like, no, she wants out this time. Because he was even, because, you know, Ray is sadly using everybody. He's using Jackie in this situation. He's using Renee because he is trying to get Renee immunity. But even Jackie's like, can you really say like you should be doing this again? I mean, she literally cost you your job, but it's like, it's different this time. Like, and got the lay of the land about the whole flight plans and stuff. So, but aside from that though, Ray was saying like, right, let you and me do this. Let's not get Alan involved and stuff like that. But you have Jackie going to Leslie about all this, and so it's like, right, let's get to it. And Leslie reluctantly like, all right, fine, we'll do this, especially if it means we can take. Because she immediately knew like, oh, you got a CI, it's Ray, isn't it? And it's like, yes, okay. I flipped. It came from Renee. It's like, oh, this is like, okay, it came from Renee, who gave it to Ray, who gave it to me. You know, so. But Leslie and Jackie were able to clear the air on their little stakeout, because it's like, right, she's like, I'm not like some heartless person, like, she's like, it's just the fact of the matter is you were like spinning out of control. And you know, Jackie admits, she's like, right, I was wrong. The fact is, I exchanged one addiction for another. Like, I found like a new obsession essentially, and you kind of feel that void of like, you know, not doing drugs and partying and stuff like that. So and Leslie's like, all right, so what's your new like addiction? And she's like, this, you know, doing this work, you know. And so her and Leslie seem like they're in a good spot again. So it's like, right, let's just kind of forget about everything. Like, I was spiraling, I know I was kind of in the wrong there. So I'm like, you know, I'm easing up on Leslie. At least she had that conversation, because she's like, I'm not trying to screw you over. She's kind of got Jackie's back in certain regards, because when the operation eventually went bust, she didn't tell. She's like, I'm not going to tell Alan. But also, Jackie, why didn't you tell me about the Daisy thing? It's like, well, yeah, because this was like a surefire thing. The Daisy thing is like, well, we don't even have a body. It's just, once again, she's spiraling. Because things went sideways because your boy Frankie rolled up and was like, the moment he was like, yo, Charmaine, because I love that he's like, oh, like from now on I'm gonna drive you around, and she's like, all right, like, because he's like, oh, you with the grown-ups now, and she's like, yeah, but you need to learn to talk to a bit. She's like, fact of the matter is, God, I forgot what she was saying, but she's like, all right, you want to drive me around? That's fine. But yeah, Frankie wrote up on her like, yo, you've been crying. She's like, shut up. What do you want? He's like, all right, let's go. We go in early. I was like, don't get in the car. And she was like, even like, oh, is that a new car? I'm like, don't get in the car with him. I was like, oh man, this sucks, especially with, because that cut back and forth between that and the whole Alan thing. I was like, oh man, this is bad. I was scared for her. I was like, yo, this is bad. And he's like, get out, because I'm like, they're in a remote place. And then she sees the hole. I'm like, no, man. Like, no. I'm like, why would you do that? It's like, she ain't got nothing to do with Jorge. Turns out, he's popping Lance. That poor bastard, he's like, I didn't say anything. But the reason why is because he knew the cops were onto him. I was like, yo, did he fire Renee out? I was like, what? I was like, how? Apparently, like, he already had people at the, keeping an eye on the airport anyway. So there was that. I think that just solidified things for him. But he killed thing because he's like, all right, we're changing up things. No more planes. So now that kind of screws him over at the airport. Poor Lance got it hard. Poor bastard. He's like, also help me dump this body. So at the same time that's happening, Ray was with Renee, and it's like, oh man, like everything's gonna be fine. Like, she's like, I just want to know this is over, like what's happening. I just don't want to be waiting at home for this to all, what if it backfires? And the moment she's throwing it out there, you're like, oh, it's super gonna backfire. I was almost hoping it would work out, but I'm like, it'd be too easy if it worked out. And of course it didn't work out. So Ray gets that text, and he's like, Renee, like, are you fucking with me? She's like, you think I'm fucking with you? Like, no, like, this is bad. Like he's most likely at home waiting for me. Once again, even under these circumstances, still not ready to play the pregnancy card. I'm like so curious when you're going to play that like card, because that could sway Ray a lot easier. It could, you know, but the fact is you're still lying to him and not telling him. I can understand why you ain't going to tell Frankie, but like I said, I'm waiting for that card to get played. It just comes down to who she plays that card to, under what circumstances and for what reason. And that's going to be a big factor, I think. But she rolls up and Frankie's waiting for her, and he found the device. You're like, yo, Ray fucked himself on this because he should have been like, Man, I wonder what. I guess Frankie was suspicious, so he wasn't sure, so he was checking everything. It's like, what made you decide to check that? But now it's like, yeah, Ray kind of screwed the pooch on this. Like, everything would have been copacetic if he had just taken the device off. It's like him deciding to bug Renee like that kind of granted, it let you put her in a position where she was someone that you could manipulate and be malleable, but, you know, which also is not the greatest foundation for a relationship. So there's already going to be issues there. Granted, she doesn't know that you're the one that put the tracker there, so there's that. But she's still under the belief that Jorge was a snitch, and if she ever finds out the truth that was Ray, kind of screws the pooch on that. So I think Ray's going to be up shit's creek without a paddle yet again, because it's like Renee feeling like Ray didn't care about her is why she turned on, like, chose Frankie last season. So it's like she finds out that it's Ray and not the DEA like that. We'll find out if it comes down to that. We'll have to wait and see. But she's like, right, you trust me, right? And he's like, yeah, like, I trust you. So it's like, oh, but I outsmarted them. And it's like, cool. He hasn't figured me out, but our window just kind of got closed. So now she's stuck with Frankie. Literally bends her over the counter and bang it out, which is just like that look on her face. It's just like, yeah, it's just like she knows she can't stay there, but she's kind of trapped now. So Jackie blows up at blows up at Ray about this whole thing, especially because she's like, you screwed me over. He's like, for one, I told you not to even go to Leslie. But she's like, right, I should have gone to Alan. I shouldn't have listened to you. Because for her, it's like, wait. She talks to Renee. It's like, oh, Renee doesn't even know anything about Daisy. He's like, I told you, like, she might talk to. It's like, you used me. She's like, I knew you were an asshole, but I never thought you'd be an asshole to me. Because legitimately, she thought like her and Ray were friends. It's like they had their moments and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's just kind of like, I mean, just like she's doing whatever she can to like find her way through this, so is Ray. But she never thought Ray would use her like that. Which is like, you know, once again, it's just like Ray's in a position where he's willing to use everyone because his you know, it's not just a Jackie that's addicted. Everyone's got their addiction, him included. His is Renee, but also it's his power and position. He wants his badge back and he's willing to do whatever he can. Granted, it blew up in his face. That dude Mickey's probably not going to listen to him going forward, but, you know, this was like his one opportunity. It still leaves other avenues. I also love that Jackie took the cat. He's like, what? And she's like, and I'm taking the cat. He's like, why are you taking the fucking cat? She's like, and what are you going to do with the cat, huh? Which I felt like that was almost like this levity moment of almost like, oh, like the married couple, like, we're going our separate ways, and I get the pet. You know, it was almost that level of things. I thought that was kind of interesting. But she rolls up at Alan's place, which Alan automatically knew what was what because he had people at the airport too, so he knew like what she was up to. It's like, this tip came from Ray, like it blew up in their faces. Like, you could have blown up an entire operation. The fact of the matter is, Jackie, you could be a good cop, but you're not disciplined enough. Because he was like, are you drinking and stuff like that? Because she's like, why would you say that? It's like, for one, you didn't come to me about the Daisy thing. The moment you knew what was what, you would have been before that whole shit show at the airport. Would have been the time. But it's like, he is willing to cut her some slack. It's like, right, don't roll up at my place. You got something to say, call me. Don't treat my place like the office. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And if there's anything about this Daisy thing, we'll find her. And like Jackie kind of centers herself a little bit more. And she's like, right, I'm sorry. Goes home, lo and behold, who's waiting? Your boy Frankie, which I don't know if Frankie's crazy enough to actually have done something. I wonder why. Because I guess he figured, like, if anyone's going to pull some moves like that, it's Jackie, because he knows, like, whoever put that up there, he probably knows he probably thinks it's Jackie, because out of anyone, Jackie's got the biggest cojones. So for him, it's like, no, it has to be you. So he wants to talk to her because she made it clear that she was coming after him. And he was like, because she's like, all right, you want to, like, have a dick measuring contest? She's like, it's fine. Like, I got, like, 7 inches for you right here. And he's like, you talk tough, but you're scared. Because even in that moment, like, yeah, Frankie's scary. You know, so in that moment, it's like, yo, you rolling up on my place personally like this? Luckily, Fred came in like the MVP, was like, I already called the cops, get out of my place. So, but yeah, Frankie's definitely going to have his eyes on Jackie. So this is kind of do or die territory. Because there's only like 2 episodes left, because this season's a little bit longer. This season's 10 episodes instead of 8 like season 1. So things are definitely coming to a head, and we're closing in on this. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Once again, we have no end. Like, the only other end that might be available, maybe Osito, because he is willing to help, because Alan threatened to take away this green situation for him if he doesn't, like, help out. So Granted, he pointed because now Alan does know about the Jorge thing because it's like, yeah, he thinks like it's like, oh, is that what Frankie thinks? And he's like, yes, that's what he made me believe. So they know about Jorge potentially being dead, and now potentially this Daisy thing. So there's going to be some interesting conversations at the office tomorrow. I mean, Jackie did even throw it out there that, like, what she's playing you again, and Renee is. I mean, she's manipulating you because she's completely leaving out the part of the equation where she killed Jorge. So, it's definitely going to be interesting, especially if she gets immunity. That immunity will still protect him, because I'm thinking of a similar situation of City on a Hill, that an immunity deal won't get, like, once it's set in place, like, you can't be charged for anything. So she probably will end up admitting that she killed Jorge, but they won't be able to do anything about it. So that'll probably be the big, like, nail in a coffin, depending on how this all works out. Is Frankie going to end up in jail? I don't know. Once again, we've referenced this New York Connect, but I think that's going to be like a bigger potential future thing. I don't think that's something that's really going to come to a head in this season, but I think that's the real, like, big picture we're looking towards. But how this whole thing with Frankie, Renee, Charmaine, how that plays out, we'll have to wait and see. I'm also worried because I'm like, I don't think Ray's going to make it. I think Ray's going to get got this season, which would suck, but I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see. I'm so fascinated to ultimately see how this all plays out going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.